Ah, you can start now.
What is your opinion on the importance of education among children?
I think education is what lays the foundation of any kid's life. It's where they kind of start their childhood, and it is something which helps them build their livelihood and also develop in multiple different aspects throughout the course of their lives.
Do you believe the same importance is for kids with learning disabilities too?
I believe the importance is more or less the same, regardless of whether someone has a learning disability or not. I think education is, is a key factor in anyone's life, regardless of whether they have that disability or not.
How common do you think learning disabilities are among children?
I think learning disabilities are quite common amongst children. I think one of the main challenges is um there are sometimes families where people are hesitant to go and maybe see a mental health expert or a therapist and things like that, right? Due to which even when children might have a learning disability, it doesn't really kind of come out in the open, or they don't really get diagnosed. So I think it for all we know, it could be more common than we think, or it could be less common than we think. But to be honest, no, like we wouldn't have an exact answer or a number until people get diagnosed.
Hmm. What kind of learning disabilities would these children have?
I think some of the learning disabilities many children face nowadays is one is ADHD, which I think as they grow older carries out into the adult form of it, which is I think called ADD. Aside from that, they usually have autism, dyslexia. Um, I think that's all I can think of for the time being.
Hmm. Do you think they have access to schools, and if not, what do you think are the reasons?
I think there are very few schools. I think the learning disable kids with learning disabilities have access to schools as much as the other kids. I think it's just about how they can actually perform relative to the other kids who don't have the disabilities. But whether these schools are more fine-tuned to serve the needs of such children, like specifically supporting kids with learning disabilities, is might vary from school to school.
What kind of environment and education system would these kids need?
I think an environment I think the environment is more or less kind of similar to what normal school kids require, right? Like a supportive teachers, subjects that in school that kind of interest them and that also help them practically in their lives. One more thing that they might require in addition to the standard requirements is basically any type of support that they can get, which will that based on their on factors that might hold them back. Maybe they have difficulty remembering the things they have learned in class uh, from a few days back, or maybe they have a difficulty in grasping the concepts. So maybe like a slightly slower pace of like a syllabus, or maybe just activities which are a little more easier for them to understand and process are uh, could actually help them, or maybe like a different curriculum. Uh, but one that would still kind of help them in their overall journey of life.
Hmm. What are some special education services available to these children?
In terms of services, I think from what knowledge I have, I believe schools have in certain schools there are different sections for kids with learning disabilities. It's not so much that they that they're made to feel left out and things like that. It's just that they have a like again like I said, maybe like a different curriculum, maybe like a different pace at which they learn. So maybe having a different section could be one thing. One more thing is maybe having counselors and also after hours support for these kids for any type of help they may require.
What challenges do you think are there in schools in providing special education support?
I think the main challenge would basically be, and I might not be an expert while I answer this, but essentially teachers or professors of any kind, while they come with the best knowledge in terms of their respective fields, be it math, physics, chemistry. I think maybe what some teachers may lack is a specialization in actually teaching kids who learn at different paces or have certain learning disabilities. Maybe they might not understand or be able to accommodate the needs of such kids because they have to teach the rest of the class as well. So I think having that, maybe like some additional type of a training module or something for which would enable kids to not only teach but also teach kids with uh, in a way that kind of provides an accommodation for everyone.
Okay. How does each technology help in bringing up these children?
So, I technology, I think nowadays is basically everywhere, right? I think the main challenge is it's usually like it's a zero or a one type of a thing. Either it can help the children in a productive way, or the children, might just end up playing games on their phones or like watching Netflix or whatever, which I believe is also like good, right? Like entertainment is something which is still needed. I think in terms of how it can help these children specifically, is I think sometimes kids with ADHD have a harder time being focused, organizing things, making sure that they're on top of their to-do list, right? There are a lot of specialized app for this. Maybe not for especially for ADHD, but I'm sure there are because there have been a lot of advancements in this space as well. I think having calendar reminders, having like organizational systems, or even just systems where people can take notes and apps like Notion, the Google ecosystem like the Google Productivity Suite and all that is something which can actually help them stay on top of things and also help with their learning and even in the future work as well.
Uh, how, as per you, can the schools and parents help these children get access to technology?
I think more or less having personal computers at home is already, it kind of takes a big step, right? Once nowadays there more or less has some or the other form of a computer or at least a smartphone at home, right? I think that is one thing that has already kind of been done in most families or households. The other thing is as long as schools have a good like a ICT or a computer science arrangement and provision, I think that is one other way. The more schools can also actually try to uh, enable children to use the technology that they have, be it in the computer lab or be it even in the classroom, having computers in the classroom itself, and teaching them at an early stage of how to use the technology and how to use these tools effectively from the very onset of their education or the onset of their foundational years. I think that will really help.
Do you think with the overall development, these special kids too can reach to their full potential and be independent and productive?
I think they definitely can. While I understand that the actual the actual range of what someone might define as their potential might differ largely between every single kid, right? Because no one kid is the same. But I think definitely, like with some more assistance and with tools that can enable these kids to learn better, uh, I think they definitely can reach their full potential. But again, it would just be a different notion of what the fullest potential is between every single person.
Have you noticed any kids with learning disabilities use technology, and are they developing well because of it?
Uh, I personally know a friend's sibling who actually has a learning disability where uh, I think he was diagnosed with ADHD. He was kind of anxious. He used to be very restless, and then he used to have a hard time learning things and keeping things in the back of his mind, and also keeping a track of everything. I think later what happened was I believe his parents bought him some type of an iPad or something, and then he started using these note-taking apps and things like that, uh, and even writing on the tablet with the pencil. And I think that just helped him keep everything together, stored in one place where he could also access it and also recall it whenever he needed from the tablet.
How can we or the government help to provide special education for all these children?
I I think. Um, there is there are already different forms of education which I think would be suitable for most kids, if not all, right? At least in terms of the syllabus or the curriculum. Like I I, I think we don't really need support in terms of uh, providing a different type of education. It could be just like special accommodations being made on how to deliver the education to to these children. Maybe it's like, through more visual learning materials. It doesn't have to be that the subjects drastically change. If one kid is learning accounting and the other kid is learning, let's say, biology, like just because someone has a disability and someone doesn't, they might not, they might be learning different. They could be learning the same things, but their approach to learning and understanding those things in a way that makes sense to them, and in a way that they can actually understand it. It might just differ in terms of how the content is, kind of given to them. Like if it's a written text content, if it is videos, if it is, in the form of audiobooks, right? So I just think it needs to be a bit of a more personalized approach, depending on a kid to kid basis, which can actually help them more.
Do you see a possibility of every school accommodating these children in the future?
I think uh, I think while every school might be able to accommodate them, I think it varies quite significantly from school to school, uh, because from what I can anticipate, having additional resources, maybe additional teachers, and even additional technology, all of this would require a lot of financial investment, which I'm not sure if every single school can do, because there are also schools which are for people who are slightly from a lower income background, right? There are also, like, government schools which might not have such large budgets and things like that. So I think keeping once there is a certain amount of investment and maybe a certain amount of resources that schools and teachers are able to access, I think that will and as that keeps happening, I think that will definitely bring the will keep bringing on more possibilities for enabling such kids in the future.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.